Good afternoon and welcome to the on-record portion of the Rockbridge Report. I'm Caroline Helms. Joining me today is Rockbridge County Administrator Claire Collins. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
And I'd like to start by asking a little bit about your job. Tell me about your job and how it relates to the Board of Supervisors.
Well, I actually serve at the pleasure of the Board of Supervisors, which means that I'm appointed by them. I don't have a specific amount of years or time to serve. It's based on whether or not they like the performance that I'm doing for the board and also for the county. I also serve a lot as what I call an advisor to the board on issues and a go-between between the county staff and the Board of Supervisors, and also sometimes between the Board of Supervisors and the community. So it's quite a wide range of responsibilities. I manage the day-to-day operations, which we have department heads that manage the specific departments. They report to me, and so personnel is part of it, along with budgeting and finance and making sure that we're fiscally sound, as well as addressing the issues that are coming before the board for public policy.
All right, and I know the budget has been a hot topic so far this year, and how will Rockbridge County and Lexington recover from the recent budget cuts from the Virginia General Assembly?
Well, the recent budget cuts really are a sting to both localities, the city of Lexington and Rockbridge County, as well as the city of Buena Vista. And those budget cuts make us have to look at how are we going to provide the level of services in not only next year but in the future. So it's not just looking at what we're getting from the state for the upcoming year, but what do we anticipate for years to come, which is that we don't anticipate that the money that is being cut from the state we will ever get back in the future. So we have to position ourselves and plan for that future, as well as what the community needs as far as services. If the community says that a service is no longer needed, then we, the government, don't need to provide it.
And how far ahead do you generally tend to look?
Well, each year when we project our revenues, we don't just project them for 12 months. We look beyond that. We look at what debt service we have that's ongoing for years to come, what payments or one-time payments that we may not have for the upcoming years, and look 3 to 5 years out so that we're not surprised by what may be coming in the future. Unfortunately, with the state budget cuts, those are somewhat of a surprise because we weren't given advance notice of those. Just as they come, we seem to have to absorb them, and we've been absorbing them. And it's very difficult for our communities to absorb them without additional revenue coming in.
And do you think that it's even harder since Rockbridge County and Lexington are so small?
Yes, I think it hurts the smaller localities. Even though the large localities have significant millions of dollar budget deficits, I think it's more difficult because what they can do is they can realign their services. Our services are so realigned right now and so defined. The only thing we can do is say what can we do more of jointly, and what can we do more effectively, and what services do we completely have to cut.
All right, and if the board doesn't help out with the budget, most likely Rockbridge Middle School and Effinger Elementary School are going to have to close down. What's your reaction to that?
My reaction is that's a decision that the school board has to make in working with the community. One of the issues that they really need a plan, a long-term plan, which I know they're trying to establish on what level of elementary schools do they need to have for the future? What level of middle schools do they need to have for the future? We already know where the high school stands, but as the school debt decreases, what needs to be done to ensure that the facilities are proper for that future, as well as which ones remain open. And the community has to be understanding of it. If the community wants those schools to remain open, what are they willing to pay to keep them open?
And these budget cuts for the schools especially imply larger classes and less personalized attention with the students. How does the Board of Supervisors feel about that?
The Board of Supervisors is willing to commit to whatever the school board decides. They will back the school board. The issue is you know, we're in a no-tax environment, and it's very difficult to say to somebody that you're raising taxes. But if there are some kinds of fees or some kinds of revenue that could be generated that would be offset to provide for schools, say if Virginia, for example, the General Assembly in all their wisdom made the decision to do a schools tax, to say to each locality that a certain portion of your real estate tax would have to be dedicated to schools, and gave school boards taxing authority throughout Virginia, that might be the way to go for the future. That's never been really adequately looked at in Virginia, and it's a way that those of us in the localities could push the members of the General Assembly to be our partners, along with all the state representatives, to say, let's look at what we need to do to fund public education in the future.
And especially with smaller class sizes in multiple elementary and middle schools, do you think that since the population in Rockbridge County and Lexington's relatively small, do you think that with the amount of schools that are around, that they've kind of overextended the number of schools they need?
It's possibly that the possibility is that without a regional plan for public education, that we may have blindsided ourselves in not looking at what's coming in the future. And if we only have a certain amount of students in the future, then we should only have the number of schools to address those students, and still be able to have a small class size, but try to do it more jointly as joint services for public education.
Right, so if we decide to end up combining schools, do you think that the school superintendent will try and make it so that classes aren't so overwhelmingly large, and try and keep the small class sizes even if schools have to combine?
I think there's an opportunity for the school administration, school superintendent, and the school board to look at that and really define the class size and create a true quality education that may be even better than the quality of education that our students currently are being provided.
So you think that if we pool the resources, that they could maybe come up with something even better?
Yes.
All right. Moving on to other news, how did the snow and the particularly bad winter affect the budget?
We were very fortunate because we don't do snow removal in the county budget, so we're not impacted by it. The cities, because they provide snow removal, both cities would have been impacted, in which they probably would have had to take in funds from elsewhere to be able to provide for the level of snow removal, similar to what the state had to do in providing snow removal for the county of Rockbridge. Those funds had to come from elsewhere in the state budget to be able to provide for that removal. Now they're taking funds to be able to repair potholes.
And what is the Board of Supervisors doing to stimulate economic growth throughout the community with budget cuts being such a huge issue?
We are actively working with existing businesses that may want to expand and grow in the community, as well as those businesses that are not expanding or decreasing their employment numbers, trying to work with the state and our regional Shenandoah Valley partnership to maintain those jobs here and also grow jobs here. What is lacking, though, is a regional plan for revenue growth and maintaining jobs and also growth of jobs here.
Are there any initiatives that are being introduced to the Board of Supervisors to try and stimulate jobs other than just growing already existing businesses?
Right now, the way the economy is at the state level, we don't have a lot of, at the state level, businesses knocking on the doors of Virginia saying they want to come to Virginia, because what's happening is it's become so aggressive and so competitive in the marketplace that to really get the businesses you have to have substantial incentives. In fact, many businesses are asking for reduction in taxes to come to a state, to locate in a locality. They want free rent, they want to not pay taxes for a certain amount of time. And those are decisions that have to be made at both the state and local level to be able to provide those types of incentives to be competitive.
All right. The Board of Supervisors made a decision to allow mining to continue at Rockbridge County, and what was the reasoning behind that?
That was before my time, and that was a zoning case on allowing that. I only have limited information on that. I know that it was not a unanimous vote of the board. I think because the quarry met all the requirements for the state to get a permit, that the Board of Supervisors went along with it. I know that there has been litigation with result of it, and I do not know the results of the litigation at this time because the court case just ended this past week, and we're waiting for a ruling from the judge.
All right. The Rockbridge Jail may soon undergo some changes,
Yes.
Potentially construction to allow more prisoners. How do you think this will benefit or hinder Rockbridge County?
I think our numbers are growing with regard to local inmates in our jail, as our jail population is growing. I do think that we still need to look at alternatives to incarceration because the cost of incarceration per inmate is much more on an annual basis than it costs to educate one child in the public school system. And so we as a community, along with other communities, need to look at that and make that become a state issue so that as we partner with the state, that the state is willing to look at alternatives to incarceration. They are out there, they are proven to be successful, and why pay more to incarcerate an inmate than we do for educating a child?
And what do you think some of those alternatives would be?
I think they are for those inmates that are not necessarily need to be incarcerated, that they do additional jobs in the community, and that there would be halfway houses, which would be less restrictive. We could also look at ways that through collar approaches, which they put on cuffs around their arms or their ankles, that they could be monitored so that the minute they are out there and there's potential for them committing a crime, then yes, they have to do some labor, hard labor, that helps the community so that they won't commit the crime, to understand that you're not just going to be behind bars and get all your meals paid for, that they have to actually provide back to the community.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.
I'm Caroline Helms with the on-record portion of the Rockbridge Report. Good night.